She is not only an exceptional speaker, but also an extraordinary human being. Her remarkable journey and staggering achievements simply leave us in awe. It is indeed my honor today to introduce and welcome Sunitha Krishnan, social activist, film producer, and author. Sunitha is the founder of Prajwala, Asia's largest institution combating sex trafficking and sex crime. She is a recipient of the Padma Shri, India's fourth highest civilian award. She has been recognized as a trafficking in person hero by the US government and was one of Newsweek's 150 fearless women in the world. Sunitha has also played an instrumental role in drafting several victim-centric policies, including the first ever anti-trafficking policy in India. She has also worked to create several comprehensive training manuals and handbooks for law enforcers, the judiciary, and other duty bearers of India's anti-trafficking ecosystem. She is easily one of the most powerful advocates for the rights of sex crime and trafficking victims. Today, as she joins us for Quorum, she will delve deeper into how one can build credibility of a standout not-for-profit organization. After her keynote, she will be joined by Priya Zutshi, Head of Sustainability Insights and Outreach at the Aditya Birla Group, for a short fireside chat. Sunitha, may we have you on stage?
Thank you. Namaskar, a very good morning to all of y'all. How do we build credibility for a non-profit organization? I think to understand that and the kind of non-profit that I run, you need to know a little bit about me and my journey and where I started and how I evolved my non-profit space. So life is about the choices we make for each one of us. I think we all make our own choices on how our destiny should be. For me, the choices were many. At the age of 15, when I was gang raped, I had two choices before me. The choice of following the construct of what the society wanted from me, to be a victim, hide my face in shame, in guilt, in pain, or to say, I don't care a damn. I survive. I am not the one who did the mistake. I'm not the one to be blamed for, and I will walk off. I chose the later. I chose to be a survivor. With that choice came another very important choice. A choice that was driven with anger. A choice that pledged my every breath of my life to fight sex crime and sex trafficking. So it is at the age of 15 that I decided that I will start an initiative to fight sex trafficking and sex crime. Now, when we say an intention or a fantasy in our mind, it's a choice that we are making. But it can just remain a fantasy if you really don't put, actions or efforts to make it happen. And so for me, the choice was about what am I going to educate myself. And at the age of 15, I had to take a choice. If this is what is going to be my life journey, so what is the kind of education, what is the scholastic achievement that I need to have to reach there? I had to also make a choice on what would be my social life. If I have to fight sex crime, it's a violence, it's a gender-based violence. And if I have to fight sex trafficking, which is an organized crime, it means that I have to take very serious decisions about what I want relationships in my life to be, what kind of personal life I will have, what kind of social life I would have. It also was making a choice about how I will view the world, with what lens I will view the world. And it was also a choice about what is my definition or my quotient of happiness. What would make me happy? These are the things that I have to make a choice about. And most importantly, to understand that between the intent and actualization, there are a lot of efforts. So what is this world that I wanted to change, and what is this not-profit that I wanted to enter the scene with? Let me tell you 4 stories to give you a little bit about the idea of the world that I wanted to change or the situation that I wanted to change. On my right is this young child who is 5 years old. Her mother, a woman in prostitution, was infected with AIDS. She could not prostitute on the street. She had to survive. She needed her alcohol. She needed her drugs. So she decided to sell her 5-year-old child to a pimp. On my left is 13-year-old child. She fell in love with this guy who promised her sun, moon, and the stars, eloped with him. She comes from a middle-class family. He took her everywhere around the country, practically got married to her with some sindoor and some garland, and one day told her that he will take her to his aunt's house, keep her there for a few days, till he finds a job to sustain themselves. He never came back. After 4 days, when she started getting very anxious and finding out where is this man, she found out that she was sold to this woman for 2 lakh rupees. On my right is another child of today. She's 11, comes from a very good, educated, middle-class family, has a laptop accessible to her, very lonely within her family because her parents both work, started becoming very active on the social media. At the age of 11, she was on Facebook, and she kind of got very close to a female profile who liked all her pictures, made her feel very special, and they became friends. She started calling her Didi because this was somebody older to her, and they started communicating on instant messenger. One day, this child told this older person, and I keep saying this older person, we have no clue who this person is, that she feels very uncomfortable with her body, and that, everybody calls her gooseberry and blah, 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 and all kinds of names. So this lady said, don't worry, I'll teach you exercises so that you can improve your body size. And asked her to put on the video, asked her to disrobe, and started teaching her exercises, which are basically masturbation. This went on for 3 weeks, until one of the cousins of this girl found these videos on a porn site. This 30-year-old woman is neither illiterate nor comes from a poor family. She's a teacher. Her husband is a software engineer. Both of them lost their jobs during COVID. They struggled with their savings. It was not enough. And one day, the husband took an instant loan on a loan app, which is very common nowadays. He could not repay back either the interest or the principal amount. Then he started getting harassed by the loan givers, asking him to give back the money. In just a few hours, harassment started taking another shape. All his contacts on the phone was hacked, and all the contacts started getting messages with morphed pictures of this gentleman, which was taken from his gallery, and with messages like, this bugger is a fraud, don't trust him. And suddenly that man's life changed. He couldn't walk on the street. Everybody was asking him, what have you done? Why are these messages coming? This was the situation inside the house, and the man was becoming suicidal. Simultaneously, practically at the same time, this woman started getting different kind of messages. She started getting messages on WhatsApp saying, walk-in interview, no certificates required, come in, we'll give you a job. And since it is COVID time, we are going to be humanitarian, we will give you even an advance for your stuff. She just walked into a trap of one of the largest sex trafficking rackets in South India. This is the world I wanted to change, a world of sex trafficking, a world which is one of the 3 largest organized crimes in the world, next to drugs and arms, $150 billion industry, the fastest growing criminal enterprise, a crime that affects more than 132 countries, including India. A majority of the victims are women and girls, and a majority of the perpetrators are also women. There's a female face to this crime, which is very, very frightening and scary. And India, as we stand here, is one of the largest sources, destination, and a transit for the crime of human trafficking. This is the world that I wanted to change. And this is where my non-profit was, at the advent of start. Now, when we talk about fighting an organized crime, now this is not like I have a good intention, I want to start an orphanage, or I want to teach some children and feel good about it. No. I'm now entering a space which require very professional skills. You can't just go in and do a rescue just like that because you have the good heart for it, or you're feeling very philanthropic about it, or you have the right humanitarian. This requires professional skills. Not only for the rescue. After you rescue, what do you do with the rescued person? Here are human beings who are kept in slavery-like conditions, raped 15 times, 20 times, 30 times a day, because that is the revenue model of the crime. That is the crime where men are coming and buying you for a particular price. And every day, the more number of people that you cater to, the revenue model works that way. That is a business model. So how do you deal with such a traumatized person? Those are the professional skills that I had to gain. I knew if I have to fight an organized crime, I can't do it alone. I needed a team. So how do you find the right aptitude, right attitude, right acumen kind of people to enter the space? That's another whole thing. You have the madness. You are driven with anger to change something. How do you transfer that madness in another set of human beings and say, okay, join me? Join me to put your life at risk at every minute. Join me to get beaten up. Join me to get killed any day. But join me to change the world for few people in a better way. This also requires planning. It's not like some ad hoc activity that I can do on my weekends or when I have a little time to spare. It requires proper strategic planning. And I can't survive this on air. I can't feed children and women and say, okay, please eat air and things like that. You need financial resources, not for one day, not for 2 days, for every day that you're fighting this cause. This is the world that I chose to start my non-profit. So at one end, we are looking at rescuing people. At another end, we are looking at preventing the problem. How do we hit it and stop it, somewhere or other? Could education be a means to prevent a generation of people from entering the space of crime? How do we sensitize human beings around us? This problem is not created by Sunitha Krishnan, right? It is something that all of us are part of. So how do we make everybody part of the solution? How do we awaken people to action? It is also about how do we ensure that those who are victimized, those who have been caught up in the trap of slavery of this kind, a slavery where there is innumerable, inhuman tortures on the human mind, body, and soul. How do we create a safe healing space for them to recover things? This is the non-profit that I started. But any non-profit goes through its own hassles of credibility. And a non-profit of this kind, which has a unique mission, definitely in multiple ways. So what is common for any organization could be a whole lot of how do they govern the organization? What are the kind of financial systems that you have? What is the kind of transparency you create in running the organization? What is the kind of redressal mechanism that you place within the organization as a part of institutional system? But much more than that, you're living and working with very vulnerable persons. What are the safeguarding protocols you inbuilt in the organization? All these factors are in a different climate, unlike many other organizations. Now, the climate in which I'm working is a climate where I'm under attack every minute of my day. But somebody is sitting there to hit my credibility and give me a bloody, real bad name, defame me, vilify me, so that I can close shop. Now, why is it important that I close shop for them? Because their revenue is hit because of my existence. And there's a whole network of human beings whose life is completely applying on how do we wipe out Sunitha Krishnan? How do we wipe out Prajwala? It is in that space that we are building credibility. We also have a whole world of human beings whom we think we have saved. We have removed them from the clutches of slavery. They don't think that way. They're hostile towards you. They're indoctrinated to believe that if you're removed from this place of slavery, your life is done, because your destiny is to sell your body. And therefore, you have an internal situation where the person whom you think you are actually doing good to is saying, no, I don't want you, go back, go back. And then there is an external system which is hitting you physically, hitting you emotionally. And then there is also new methods of hitting. In the last 10 years, a new method that we have seen is where traffickers, and I told you that it is a female phase of this crime. So traffickers infiltrate into the organization, posing as victims. Now, just imagine if you keep getting news on the newspaper every day, so many girls ran away from a home, or 100 people committed suicide in that home, or there is so much of violence in that home. Automatically, your understanding of that home will change. You will start thinking that this is a very bad home, this is a very bad organization. So a very, willfully, mindfully created strategy to actually create this kind of a vilification campaign is also part of my existence. But also, a very, very two important factors that affect us is, I believe sex trafficking is the oldest form of sex slavery. I believe any human being, man, woman, child, being here is subjected to the worst forms of human rights violation. That's my position. But there is another position in the same country which believes it is a right of a woman to sell her body. No problem. It's a right to self-determination. And they come from another school of thought. This differing ideology then starts looking at, oh, this woman, this organization, this is the strongest proponent of this thought process. So maybe actually changing their name in the world, giving them a very bad color, would actually make sure that this ideology doesn't come up. So you're also fighting a differing ideology. And that is far more dangerous because these are all well-read people. They are intellectually in a very high position. And then, any crime, and when it comes to an organized crime, cannot survive with lack of support from within the system. The crime thrives because there are supporters within the system. And therefore, as you're hitting the revenue of a whole network, there is also a small hostile group of people within the system who's now inside the system, who's trying to thwart you. They're constantly looking at ways and avenues to destroy you, wipe you out. Given half a chance, your licenses will be removed. Given half a chance, all kinds of raids can happen on you. Given half a chance. So credibility in this kind of a non-profit space becomes a necessity. It's not a fashionable requirement, but it is the thing. Without that, you cannot survive. So when the whole world starts, and believe me, all that I told you happens every day in my life. And therefore, I live in a world where every day I'm doubted, every day I'm questioned, every day I'm supposed to prove the rightness of my intervention. When the whole world doubts you, what is it that holds you? It is your truth. It's your truth in your action, in your integrity, in your intention. But most importantly, what you do, you have to not only think right, but do right in a correct legal frame of mind. And it has to be evidence-based. It can't be something in the hawa. Okay, I have done so much. So what is my truth, that which is keeping my credibility strong? My truth is that I have set up the largest rehabilitation home in the world. It's there to see for people. It's not anybody's imagination. My truth is that more than 29,200 human beings, the youngest child being 3 years old, has been removed from sex slavery and provided a space to recover and heal and start a dignified life. My truth is that more than 15,000 young children, as young as 4 and 5, have been prevented from entering sex trade or prostitution. My truth is also that whole world of shelters in the country have changed, transformed through our intervention. My truth is also that we have impacted directly hundreds of policies in the country. Today, there are anti-trafficking policies in several states. Prajwala takes the credit for drafting them, for advocating them, for lobbying them. If today the country will have an anti-human trafficking law, a trafficking legislation, that is 22 years of work of Prajwala in the Supreme Court. If today the National Investigation Agency has a special cell only to investigate human trafficking cases, it's because of Prajwala. If we have a cybercrime portal, www.cybercrime.gov, it is because of Prajwala's PIL. So many policies, legislation have been impacted through. That is my truth. And that builds my credibility in this space. But it is also my truth that I don't compromise on several things. And that's also part of the credibility. We don't compromise on our ideology. We don't compromise in whom we take money from. Because taking any money from anybody, any Tom, Dick, and Harry doesn't work for us. We need to constantly work on, apply our mind on, is this person, is this institution actually aligned with our ideological position? We cannot be donor-driven in this kind of space that we are working in. They have to understand what our needs are. So it means whom to take for. Can we allow interns? We cannot allow interns. Can we allow volunteers to come into our setup? No, we cannot. So these are the non-compromising positions that we need to take. Also, how do we make survivors a big part of the thinking, part of the management, part of the running of the organization? I have a team of 200 today. I started as a single person 30 years back. But now I have 200 people who are part of my mission, full-time, working with me, and 50% of them are survivors of sex trafficking themselves. So that is the kind of very non-compromising protocol positions that we are taking. But it is also about becoming zero tolerant to several things. Zero tolerant to situations like this, where this 2-year-old child was raped by 11 men, fighting tooth and nail for her justice for more than 7 years and getting all of them convicted with life imprisonment, in the process gaining as many number of enemies that we can think of. Also zero tolerance for situations like this, where we found videos of rape and gang rape being circulated on social media, on WhatsApp and YouTube, where these young men were found flaunting the rape with a 12-year-old girl. This is pictures grabbed from the videos itself. This is the looks when they are doing what they are doing. And taking some very, very unconventional but absolutely revolutionary stand that we will shame them. Starting a Shame the Rapist campaign was the first of its kind in India that we did. We brought them on social media and showed the world, these are the guys who are flaunting their rape. Please show us who they are so that we can report them. This particular situation landed to the Supreme Court. All these guys were arrested. One of the first persons to be arrested was a builder, a very rich man from Odisha who actually raped his receptionist and made a video of it. With him was this young boy who's a driver, who's a school dropout from things. So what is that one thing that I have learned in my journey of building credibility for the non-profit that I start? The end is important, no doubt about it. But the means to an end is far, far more important than the end itself. Sometimes that process itself is far, far more important. And how you do that process, how you apply those means becomes far more important than the end itself. Having said that, what has worked for me? Work for the organization that I run? We have learned to see opportunity in every adversity that has come our way. When people attacked us, we made better safeguarding protocols. When people vilified us, we reviewed and evaluated our programs to make it more transparent. So every adversity became an opportunity. But also our journey taught us that the good that all of you all are part of this world, is far, far more powerful than the small group of evil in this world. And believe in that goodness to move the mission, because the work that we do, we take one step and somebody is pushing you 20 steps backward. And therefore, it's very, very critical that we hold on to the good and understand the power of this good. The right road that you take is definitely tough. Getting your work done in a government office without giving bribe is definitely tough. But getting it done that way is long-lasting, it's far sustaining. Choose that right road. Never, never use the shortcuts. It's very easy, especially in the non-profit sector, to get into shortcuts. There are millions and zillions who want their black money to be made white money through an NGO. There are millions and zillions who want to use you for their branding purposes. There are millions and zillions who have, all kinds of agenda and vested interest being associated with non-profit. Saying no to that, making that boundaries clear, is one of the major takeaways that we have. Mindful planning in every step of our life makes the work more strategic, more performance-oriented, and more outcome-oriented. And what is very critical in maintaining our credibility is critiquing us every day, evaluating us every day, and reviewing us every day, and believing and understanding that you are the only certifying authority for the character of not only your personhood, but also your organization. That means you have to critically look at what you're doing at every second of thing. Having said this far, and I'm going to take 2 more minutes to wind up and then invite Priya over. What is it that I want from you all? Because having given this much of bhashan has no relevance for me. This and the next 2 slides are the only relevant slides for me as far as I am concerned. What is it that I want from each one of you all who are part of the problem? Each one of you all are part of the problem. The problem of sex crime, the problem of sex trafficking, in your silence, in your passivity, and most importantly, your tolerance. You read the newspapers every day, and it is just a story for you. You feel bad and then you move on. You choose not to act. You choose remain silent. And in your silence, what do? You create an enabling environment for the perpetrators to flourish. So what do I need from you all? Just 3 things. 1, please break your silence. And when I say break your silence, not big things that I'm asking. Start from your own families and your own houses, your own institutions. If you see sex crime of any kind, if you see an inappropriate sexual behavior of any kind, speak up. Say no. Do not accept it. Because when you accept it, or you remain silent in the name of shame, in the name of honor, in the name of prestige, or in the name of being safe, what are you doing? You're just encouraging a perpetrator who believes if I can do it with this person, I can do it with anybody else. If that 2-year-old child has been raped by 11 men, gang raped by 11 men, it is because the 11 men felt so confident that I can do it and get away with it, nobody will speak up. If those young men who not only raped a girl, recorded the video, disseminated on WhatsApp and YouTube, and that is a viral video, it is because we choose to remain silent. Can we break that silence? Can we also break our passivity? Sometimes we think, oh my God, this is so big. What are we supposed to do? How are we supposed to do? And we actually it's very convenient for us to get paralyzed and frozen in the mind. My God, what can I do? I'm just a small fry in this game. You're not. You have this mobile phone. Each one of you will have it. You put your selfies. You've put so many damn things on this WhatsApp group. Today, as this session is going on, even if you put 1 line of what you have understood from this session on your Facebook, on your Twitter, nothing else, on your family WhatsApp group, you are also actually taking an action. If you choose that today I'm going to speak to one friend of mine, a male friend of mine, and talk to him about not using porn, you're actually contributing to the cause because you're making one less person who could be a buyer. Acts to fight it need not be starting a non-profit or becoming an activist. It is about looking in your limited space. And this is my favorite dialogue that I say everywhere. Don't tell me 10,000 ways that you cannot do it. Tell me that one way that you can do it. And it is within all of us. And today you do not have the excuse of ignorance. I didn't know what to do. Now you know what you can do. And if you don't do it, then you're making the choice not to do it. But most importantly, please break your tolerance. You know, for a 5 centimeter of land, or one jhanda takes and keeps here, there are communal rights. We go up till the Supreme Court to fight for some piece of land. Brothers hit each other, family breaks up. A 6-month baby is getting raped. Just a story. Hundreds and thousands of our girl children are sold in sex slavery. Just a story. Can we break that tolerance? If we can create a zero-tolerant world, that is when the world will become a better space, a zero-tolerant world to any form of violence. And as I conclude my session, I just want to tell you one story which is my greatest inspiration and my greatest strength. Please pause, reflect on this face. This young woman is 19 years old. She was sold at the age of 13 by her brother-in-law, her sister's husband. And she was sold here to Mumbai from Hyderabad, a place called as Bhivandi, resold to another place called as Budhwarpet, which is in Pune. For 3 years, she languished in a brothel. For 3 years, thousands of men raped her. At the age of 16, she was rescued by us. I was responsible for her rescue. And when we rescued her, she had already had 6 abortions. She had all kinds of physical damages, VDRL, syphilis, and all kinds of stuff, but also the mother of all the infections, that is HIV. She survived for 3 years. At the age of 19, she had full-blown AIDS. She was dying. We had to shift her from our shelter to the hospital because as a practice, I do not keep anybody in the last stages in my shelter because we have all our children, more than 50% are HIV positive. I feel very uncomfortable making our other children see death, so we immediately shift them to the hospital and from the hospital move to the cremation ground. As a principal, I don't meet any child before they die. I don't like that last-minute dramas. But this was a very unique situation for me. The girls started insisting to the doctors that, Badi madam ko bulao, she has to come. And when I was called, it's like with great amount of resistance, I went to the hospital. And the first thing she said is, Madam, can you take my picture? There's a strange request coming. This is not a photogenic face. It's a hospital bed. I took her picture on my mobile. And then I asked her, Beta, why did you ask me to take this picture? And she said, Madam, you speak to hundreds and thousands of people. You give so many speeches, so many bhashans everywhere. Can you show my picture everywhere you go? Can you show the world what are the damages of prostitution so that no girl has a fate like mine? She is my hero. I cannot imagine any one of us, including me, one leg into the grave and we are thinking, our life should be a message for the world. Each one of us have so much of privileges. We have so much in our hand, so much of power. Her generosity of the spirit, even as she is going down, she believes her life should be a message to the world. And as a tribute to her life, I show this picture to as many groups as possible, as many groups that I can speak to tell you, if she can do it, each one of us can do it. Make our life a message for somebody to learn from. Like to stop that, just thinking that will not happen, you have to find a way to act, and that is the only way that we can change so that no child, no woman, no human being goes through what this human being has gone through. Thank you. Priya.
What a moving presentation for all of us. First of all, it's an absolute privilege to have this conversation with you. So, in a world where, meaningful impact is something that we keep talking to ourselves about, ikigai is something that we refer to, and that is something that I saw across your presentation, that why am I here, what am I here for, and what is the expectation from me at large. So, I begin this conversation with asking you that credibility is something, especially when we talk about not-for-profit organization, it's a very difficult thing to make and to survive in that and sustain that kind of credibility and trust that one has built. So what are the major milestones that you see in your journey of building this credibility?
I think three things I would say. One is a big part of my beginning years, I chose to remain very, very quiet, not become very visible, and chose to only put on the ground demonstrative activities, so that I look at Prajwala as a laboratory where I'm experimenting on how to change things. And just talking about those experiments cannot work. And I believe that you have to become the role model for that. You have to demonstrate it works. So if I say a girl can be rehabilitated in a world where everybody is saying that prostitution is a necessary evil, meaning nobody can get me rehabilitated, and then there's a whole school of thought which also believes that, certain class of women should prostitute so that your daughters can safely walk on the street. Now, this is the mindset that people come with. So I had to demonstrate that it is not inevitable. And that has to be done very systematically, which means I had to break a lot of, a systemic understanding of this. Having said that, that itself is not very easy to prevent a woman in prostitution's child from entering the trade, or to remove a person from thing. Sounds very simple, but go into a brothel, try to pull out a person, and then you will know how many people will come and hit you and things like that. So that demonstration becomes very important. The second thing which became very important is just doing things ad hocly with a lot of emotion and drive does not provide you the immunity. A big part of my early years was battling kidnap cases against me, because I would just remove somebody because I know this information and I have to remove this person. It took me a while to understand how to do things rightly. You have to involve the police. You have to involve the legal machinery, the criminal justice system. So doing things the right way, following the JJ Act, following POCSO, following the Immoral Traffic Act. Otherwise, anybody can throw a stone at you, Who are you? You are running a brothel yourself. A group of girls are living in your shelter. You could be called a brothel too. So doing things in the right way. The third thing is sustaining the trust and faith of people who support you. So if you are giving me 1 rupee, you have to see the benefit of that 1 rupee. And you have to see that in your lifetime. Not because I'm giving you the speech, but because so many people have said, that 1 rupee did make a big impact. So the impact and, scaling of the impact, which cannot be a PowerPoint presentation. It cannot be a data that we are showing and making a big PR activity about. It is about actually, so some of my best PRs are my police officers, my judges, the child welfare committee, because they see the transformation. So you need to create more ambassadors and champions by your work, natural ambassadors who will say, okay, if you want rehabilitation, send them there, and that is how you sustain the trust and faith. So these are the 3 things that I would say.
You briefly spoke about stakeholders even in the presentation, and even now we have spoken about it. This is something that we have very similar in our various spaces that we function in, whether they be not-for-profit or even the corporate sector. So how do you actually address different stakeholders? You have the police, the machinery, your donors, as well as, if I have to say, the victims.
Yeah. Survivors
so how
and
do you
victims,
survivors? Yeah, survivors.
and victims.
Yeah.
These are two faces in the same
Faces,
person's
yeah.
life.
So how do you address them and ensure that they have a buy-in to you, the work that you're doing?
So it is a constant battle with the stakeholders within the criminal justice system. It takes a while to make them understand that they are not doing a favor and we are in it together. So to just convince somebody, I don't think I have been able to convince all of you all that you're part of the problem. You know, while you've heard me, I don't think that's sunk into your brain that you are part of the problem. But making that sink into the brain and not think that anybody is doing a favor on me. It's like, many people write their donation check, oh, we are doing some good for you. Not thinking that I'm just doing my duty to change something which I'm part of. So making people inside the system who think that they are doing sun, moon, and the stars, to make them believe that no, you're not doing enough, and for this problem, I'm providing you the skill space and that again does not happen overnight. So to bring that win-win space, that you know this, we are coming together on this, is one part of the whole thing. It took us many, many years. Meaning, I had a phase in my life where I would go and speak to a senior police officer, an IPS ranking officer, and tell him about the problem and everything. And then he looks at me like this and he says, Madam, we don't have any traffic problem in our jurisdiction. It is there on the other side where there is a flyover being made. And you're like blinking and thinking, what the hell is this man talking? Then you realize that he's thinking that I'm doing some traffic lights, green, red, and all the rest of it. So from that space to making them see that you are the stakeholder fighting crime, I'm just joining you to change that because I think it's my duty to. One part of it, the same philosophy with the supporters and donors. I have great difficulty in donors who believe that, oh, we are doing such a great thing so you become, what is that? A recipient of our benevolence. So thank you so much. We don't need your benevolence. So when you say that, you become arrogant. You become a person with a lot of attitude. Like, look at her, the way she speaks, And believe me, if I had crashed and been thing, they would all be right in their, assumptions. But making them understand that, it is on your behalf that we are fighting this. So we are doing this bit, you do this bit, So creating spaces for partnership and ownership, and most importantly, the survivors. If they don't have a voice for what has to be changed about a problem that they lived, they experienced. Today, when survivors lead rescue operations and a senior police officer calls me and says, ma'am, so-and-so should be sent. He has no clue that she's a survivor. And why should she come? Because she does the rescue far better than anybody else does. So making people understand that, and that is not so easy, Priya. Especially when you have this MSW who comes with this very overblown halo on the head, saying that I've studied social work and I know everything and I know the theory of change. And here is this person who may not be that literate, and she's just survived this lived experience of thing. To sit as colleagues, it's easy to treat them as victims and say, oh, thing, and showcase them as stamps, rubber stamp, things like that. To make them sit as equals and say, okay, now tell us, how do we design the rescue program? How do we design a shelter? How do we run a shelter, for that matter? Tell us how to do that. That kind of a partnership requires a lot more work. So I think a big part of my life in the last 30 years has been only struggling to change minds of people. And I continue to do that even today.
Of course, we all know that trust it takes years to build, seconds to just,
Absolutely.
lose the trust. And to get it back, it would be, it seems to be an impossible task if once lost. I wanted to ask you basically that, now that we expect not-for-profits to solve our very pressing problems, how do you actually drill it down for people at large? So, because it seems to be, you referred to it also saying that you do your bit. But when you are fighting against such a huge problem in a country like India, where population is our number one concern area, how do you drill it down to actually people? How do you communicate with them so that they understand that they have a say in that?
So when I accepted to come here for this quorum, when Amit invited me, it was not only to promote my book that I've written, my autobiography, but also to build more champions for our cause. I use every opportunity for speaking to find more champions who can speak. And I believe the champions could be anywhere. They could be in the houses, it could be in the corporate sector. And we need to continuously, and it's not a one-time activity, we need to continuously invest ourselves to find more and more and more number of people from all walks of life, not just the non-profit, because non-profits already have their mandates. And they, like if you're working on education or you're working on children, then you don't want to work on this, so you are creating those turfs. But the world at large, and these are problems that's going to affect all of us in some way or other. So making it as much as their own, which is not a very palatable idea. You like all these things to be far away, you want to bury it under the carpet, you want to suppress it, you don't want to hear it. I think the word rape or gang rape, and to say that I am a rape survivor itself is like shocking for many people, meaning, oh my God. It's so easy to live in a world of denial, So sinking it, taking it, making it palatable for everybody is, I think, not only my job, but from today, the entire 100 who are sitting here. I hope and I believe, not only I hope and believe, I demand that each and one of all them also become my ambassadors in this work, because that's a problem that we all have to together solve.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And this was an absolute pleasure to have this conversation with you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sunitha, for the invigorating talk. And thank you, Priya, for the discussion. I request Priya to present Sunitha with a Sparkle gift card for the NGO Can Support. This is an NGO which is dedicated to caring for people with cancer. Our speakers today will receive the special Sparkle Gift Collaborative Card, where SGC has collaborated with 3 of the 10 NGOs to bring out these collaborative cards. With these cards, you can donate directly to these NGOs by simply purchasing them. Remember to visit sparklegiftcards.com to know more about this, or visit the kiosk in the pre-function area outside. Thank you so much, both of you.